Simon Ractliffe, Regional Vice President with Qualys. Thanks for joining us on our Tech and Sec Weekly.
Good morning, Chris. It's a pleasure.
Nice. Look, we've had Qualys on before. We've interviewed the CISOs of Qualys previously as well. And you're relatively new into the VP role for the region of Australia and New Zealand. We can go either way. We can go, let's find out more about Qualys, but maybe your role and what your focus will be as the Regional Vice President.
Very good. So, yes, well, in fact, we can go either way, but myself and Qualys have actually been in the security industry about the same time. So both myself and Qualys started in security in about 2000. Okay. And I was running a US-based security services company at about the time that Qualys launched their first product globally. And so, 20-something years now later, and I find myself working for a company that I've been watching with great interest for those past 2 decades.
Well, likewise, as I said, we've been aware of Qualys. Maybe introduce us to Qualys just for the audience, just so they're clear, and then we'll have a chat about cybersecurity and what 2023 looks like.
Yeah, certainly. So Qualys has a very long heritage in the marketplace, began in around 2000, has now grown to a huge global organization with more than 11,000 customers worldwide, present in 130 countries, and is now servicing 9 out of the top 10 banks, retail organizations, biotech firms, you name it. It's been very widely adopted for the core capability, which is around risk identification and risk remediation. So that's the company in a nutshell.
Well, in terms of, it does focus on sort of that regulatory environment as well, and just guiding companies through, as you say, not so much compliance driven, but their key obligations.
Absolutely. So the business really traditionally has been all about transparency and hygiene. So shining a light on those blind spots that organizations have, and ensuring that they meet the security and regulatory compliance requirements that are now obviously increasing in importance, I guess.
Well, look, we're on the back of some significant breaches in Australia, new federal government as well, and there's a lot of review, not just within cybersecurity and sort of critical infrastructure protection, but also in privacy and digital identity. What are your sort of key observations from the client's perspective and what their demands are at the moment?
Yes, well, to some extent, thank heavens, having been in the industry for such a long time, there has always been this universal need for greater awareness of the risk. And of course, the challenge comes when market forces are not sufficient to drive and compel organizations to act, then regulation ensues. And so that's what we're seeing happen now more than ever, is regulatory authorities really sort of stepping up and driving this agenda for change. And so we see the World Economic Forum now really highlighting the importance of cybersecurity. And I actually find the term appalling, because it shouldn't exist. It should be just security and risk management, as would any other part of a business. But we're seeing the World Economic Forum really drive this agenda of seeing security as an enabler, driving security more into the boardroom, elevating the importance of risk management and risk mitigation to help organizations avoid this ongoing threat of business disruption created through cybersecurity-driven events. And so it's really important for us.
Yeah, I was going to say, but what at the board level, what do you think some of the key questions they should be asking, and who is at the point where the CISO is not just briefing the board, but in terms of really needs to get embedded across what the business is and the key business risks, because cyber is going to be touching all of those?
Yes, yeah, no, absolutely. So look, the challenge I think that organizations have had is the language that they use. And so risk quantification, I think, is a really important piece now. Having a conversation with the board and telling them that you've invested in multi-factor authentication, it's kind of meaningless What boards are looking for is situational awareness. What is our risk position today? And what are we doing to reduce that risk position over time? What are the actions we are taking? And so if we can quantify risk and then show, I guess, over time, the reduction in risk with real metrics, then it really hits home. It allows everyone to speak the same language and understand what investments are being made and what problems are being addressed. And so a lot of that is around articulating the challenge in language that everyone understands, and then being able to, over time, improve and evidence that improvement, which of course then gives greater comfort to the board and allows them to see the value of it and provide additional investment to that part of the organization.
Sometimes it's a challenge with security, though, that if you get the investment right, nothing happens. That's the
Yes.
How do you think the board is best measuring that over time? Is it the fact, because it's really creating that value and what is the return on investment? And it's always that challenge with security is they don't tend to invest in it until after something's happened. And then that's when the money gets in. It's too late by then. How do you think boards should measure this over time?
Well, unfortunately, I think regulation is an important requirement, and that you're exactly right, Chris. The challenge that we have is that we all value risk differently, and so if you see your competitors in the market or other organizations that are struck down, you of course don't want it to happen to you, but there is a habit, I think, in the industry to just grin and grimace and hope it doesn't happen and not provide the controls and the measures that are required. And so regulation, I think, is very important to provide organizations with those guiding principles and ensure that they are at least pursuing the low bar, which usually regulatory compliance is.
And the other key aspect that we've seen in the industry, and we talk about regulation there, sometimes that's a challenge for companies to upskill their teams, and also there's a skill shortage that's broadly recognised. What are your observations in the market there? And again, the challenges there. What's keeping the CISO up at night? Is the skills gap one of those?
Yes, it is one, but it's one that I think we can progressively address now. There is significant advancement in technology, and all of our clients are pushing for simplification. So simplification, reduction of complexity, and they're now seeking to engage technologies such as orchestration and automation to allow them to. It's actually twofold. One is reduce cost, because of course, if you can simplify, if you can remove the what we call agent bloat, all of the technology tools that are all tripping over each other, if you can simplify that, but then also engage in orchestration and automation, you can create a straight through flow. So once you identify a risk, and then you can quantify that risk, prioritize that risk, you can then through automation start to remediate, so eliminate or at least mitigate that risk. And technology is allowing us to do that, reducing cost, but also reducing the reliance on some skills. And so that's an important new component. The challenge, I think that executives, because the CISO term is perhaps overused. A lot of organizations still don't have a CISO, and the role falls on different individuals. But the execs who are addressing the board, I think, still have a challenge, and that is pushing through the various silos in an organization. So what we see in a lot of larger organizations is traditionally we've been talking to the security groups, and they understand the problem. They understand the problem very well, but it's the time to resolve a security issue. And so they're sitting there compelling the organization to act. Please get the systems organization, or please get other parts of the business or our service providers to make these changes. And therein lies this issue where these silos create delays in resolution. And sometimes contractually there are issues as well. So really an important piece is organizing or addressing challenges within the organization to better solve these issues. So we know that technology allows now for automated remediation of identified risks. And so it's organizational issues which impede that. As you'd be aware, the Essential 8, the ACSC's recommendations, they're looking for organizations to patch within 48 hours. We see this push out beyond 17 to 30 days for organizations to get this done. And we just don't have time to wait that long with threat actors moving way faster than we do.
Look, you're absolutely right. We've definitely heard that from a number of larger organizations, even the SMBs, is pushing that risk management through the business. As you say, the security teams get it. Even the executives sort of understand what the risk is now. There's been a lot of sort of upskilling of boards and executives, but now that remaining part of the organisation is really critical. What about just any learning outcomes, do you think, from some of the recent attacks, even in the response and the communications, and how that might sort of impact for 2023?
So I think what we've seen with some of these more recent breaches is this overuse of the term sophisticated. It's used ad nauseum. Some of these breaches have been down to really sort of basic fundamental issues. And it is back to this transparency and hygiene. Before we step outside of our doors in the morning, we usually take a look at ourselves in the mirror. We want to know what we look like to the outside world. We want to know if there's spinach on our teeth or whatever it might be. And if we keep doing that, then we know what our vulnerabilities are, what we look like to the outside world, and the things that are going to perhaps cause us embarrassment or create an issue for us. Organizations have tended to worry too much about 0 days and APTs, advanced persistent threats, state nations, and so on and so forth. I think a lot of organizations have lost sight of the fact that they need to understand what they look like to the outside world and have a continuous monitoring of that. And those are really basic requirements. If you understand where your risks are and you can understand a status change in double quick time, then you can act upon it. So yeah, just that transparency and hygiene, understand what assets you have, what they look like to the outside world, and being able to solve that in a timely manner, I think really has been highlighted. So I was going to
say, I take it this is where Qualys can step in with some of the privacy requirements and understanding what data sets you hold and the obligations around that.
Yes, yeah, no, absolutely. So the tool sets for years have been able to understand where your crown jewels are, understand the critical path through your environment to the crown jewels. So essentially give you a very clear picture of your environment, how threat actors might look at your environment. And we, through our intelligence, our research and development, we understand potentially, what the bad guys can do to you. And of course, with that, report on it and provide you with all of the dashboards that you need to present to regulators and the board and give you a prioritized work list, if you like, to ensure that you can address those risks. So security and compliance, transparency, hygiene is what Qualys is all about. But of course, as I mentioned, what we've done over the last 20 years is developed this trust relationship with our customers. They rely on us to highlight these blind spots for them, identify these risks, quantify these risks, and of course, progressively, what they've now asked us to do is a lot more for them. And with these orchestration and automation technologies, we can now start to automate the remediation piece. And so that's a really strong focus for us, is working with consulting groups, working with the senior executives in our customer base, and working with our service providers to restructure ourselves so that we can actually bring that to life. And it's not a technology challenge, it's an organizational challenge.
Nice. And what's 2023 holding for Qualys? What's sort of things to look out for? And maybe we'll finish off with a call to action. But how does 2023 look as we come to the end of a very interesting 2022?
Yes. Look, Qualys is in this wonderful position that it's been a very careful, mature over its entire life, and is comfortably growing and growing profitably. And so what that means is that we can continue to invest. And 2023 is all about investment. Certainly here in Australia, I'm not sure if you're aware, we don't have salespeople. We have a team called technical account managers. And although we are a cloud-based delivery organization, when we take on a new customer, we apply a team to those customers, either assigned or dedicated. And those technical account managers work with the customer to show the customer how. All customers consume our products and services in a certain manner. But what we do is we stick with them and we show them how they can better engage as they make their changes to their platforms and systems. We show them how to better use our tool set. So we'll be investing in more people this year, which is completely aligned with our normal business growth. But what we'll also be doing is investing in more capability to consult with our clients, but also as we become more of, or we move out of this cyber space where traditionally we've worked with partners who have managed security service providers. As we move to more service provider models, we'll be working with those service providers to invest in helping them create the platforms for service delivery, which will better serve our customers. So we're bringing on more technical account managers, more solution architects, and more advisory teams to just show our customers how they can now solve the problems. They all know what the problems are. They just need to know what's available to them. And so that's our commitment for FY23, is investment in that piece. As well, of course, we need to also continue our considerable plowback into our research and development of just simply doing our business as usual, which is looking at emerging technologies, understanding what the bad guys are going to do to those emerging technologies, and make sure we have the detection and response available for that. So lots of investment this year, Chris.
Wonderful. And I think the last thing I wanted to, just in terms of the cloud migration that you're saying, well, digital transformation and the cloud migration, as a cloud-based platform, do you find that that's when you're coming on? At what point is it good for customers to reach out to you, and as they go through that sort of migration, and become more sort of cloud-based in their sort of key operations of the IT sector? Just at what point in the onboarding process that you have for customers?
So look, in summary, everybody needs help. It's a universal issue. Everybody needs help. But the important thing for us is to meet our customers wherever they are. And everyone has hired a team, bought some technology, built a capability. And what we need to do is meet them wherever they are, whenever we meet them. But it's never too soon to engage with the company, because again, it's not always easy to see what solutions are available. What Qualys is really endeavored to do is make sure that we're always ahead of future trends, or certainly aligned with future trends, and aligned with what we see the bad guys are going to do. And so working closely with our customers to understand their intentions is really important for us. And that's where our model, I think, has really been successful. The technical account managers become an extension of our existing customers. And so we see what their intentions are. We're able to engage in their projects and provide them with visibility of what is possible. And so that's what we intend to keep doing. We need to certainly provide more thought leadership, more visibility are, and what our research is telling us is coming down the pipe. But certainly the opportunity for our customers is they can engage in their digital transformation down any path that they choose, because we've remained at the forefront working with all of the major service providers, cloud providers, and technology providers to make sure that we have the ability to integrate into their systems, but also provide all that transparency and hygiene no matter what platform you're operating on.
Nice, good, and a nice response. I think it's part of just starting the conversation. I think, as you say, we're all on a journey. It's one of those terms that sometimes I cringe, but it is the reality of all organisation. So look, Simon Ractliffe, Regional Vice President for Australia and New Zealand with Qualys, thank you very much for joining us on our My Security Tech and Sec Weekly.
Chris, thanks for your time. It's been a pleasure.